I need you to get here. I don't know what to do. I know, I'm trying to calm down, but everything's so loud and my mind is racing and, oh my god, nothing's working. Can you come over? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. No, no, I shouldn't distract you. I'll see you when you get here. I'm sorry, I have to go. 11. Hey, were you waiting outside long? I'm sorry if you knocked. I couldn't hear you with my headphones on. I should have taken these off if I knew you were coming. No, I smelled your blood. Um, I can't really help it right now. My senses are kind of all over the place. Do you want to sit? I doubt sitting on the floor of my kitchen was what you had in mind when you said you'd come over, but I just. This feels like the best place to be right now. Alright. Yeah, I don't mind if you sit close to me. I'm sorry for calling you this late. Yeah, but I know you must have been sleeping and. Okay. I'm sorry. I got lost in my thoughts again. What were you saying? Yeah, it was because Talia finally called me. We do, but it had been weeks since I'd heard from her. I tried to tell myself not to read too much into it, especially since it was likely she'd call me soon anyways. Because Talia always calls me on the anniversary of my turning. No, it wasn't today. I mean, the call was, but the anniversary was a few days ago. May 19th, to be more specific. I didn't know how to bring it up without making things awkward. I've never had to explain it to a partner since I haven't been in many serious relationships since I was turned. I wasn't sure how you'd react, so I decided to save the conversation for another day. Yeah, it's at least part of why she called tonight. Um, I know what I said a second ago, but could I explain it? My turning. I know I don't have to, but it would be hard to explain why she called me if I don't tell you. That's why I'm asking. I trust you, beloved. I don't mind telling you as long as you're comfortable listening. I was still in college when I was turned. It's actually the original reason why I moved away from home. I didn't have many opportunities for exploration growing up, and I desperately wanted a change of pace. So, after taking a gap year to save up, I finally made the move. Most of my time was devoted to either focusing on my studies or working, but that didn't make it any less meaningful. I was making progress towards the life I had envisioned. Um, like I mentioned before, I had been a med student. even managed to make it all the way to med school. I remember being so proud of myself for making it that far. I felt like fantasies I'd had for years were finally within reach for the first time in my life. And that was nice while it lasted. I had a friend who lived here in Notarum. We met during our freshman year, but she ended up transferring universities. It had been years since we'd seen each other in person, and with our schedules, I felt like we'd never get a chance to. One afternoon, she calls me out of the blue and asks if I'd be willing to come visit her. She knew I had my own studying to do and thought we'd both benefit from having a body double. I lived an hour away at the time and thought the change in scenery would do me some good. So I said, sure. I was stagnant and veiled prior to my turning. So when I got to Notarum, it seemed like any other city to me. A place I'd visit maybe a handful of times and then never come back to. I ended up meeting with her at her campus library. We were there for hours, well into the night. And we had a great time together, even if we were just studying and taking notes for the majority of it. During one of our breaks, though, she got a text about a family emergency. I still had some extra work I wanted to get done before I left, so I told her that I'd make it home okay, and that she should go ahead and handle her business. I was there another hour before I decided to call it a night. Since I wasn't actually a student there, I had to park off campus. As I was walking, I overheard something behind a building. It was hard to make out, but it sounded like people. And for whatever reason, my instincts told me to see if someone needed help. I started to approach, slowly, trying to get close enough to hear what was going on, when I realized I was listening to a physical altercation. Despite my better judgment, I continued moving closer until I could see what was happening. I saw two figures. One was on the ground, clutching her stomach and trying to get away. The other was standing above her, their back to me. I thought if I could knock out the standing figure, I could get the injured person to a hospital. I happened to have an umbrella on me that night, so I set my backpack down, grabbed it, and went to hit the standing figure. And I did manage to hit them, but all it did was redirect the attention onto me. Within the blink of an eye, she turned and attacked me. She clawed into my stomach, the force of the blow knocking me onto the ground. I was struggling to catch my breath and bleeding out as she stood over me. I braced myself for her to attack me again when the figure from the ground tackled her. I could only hear the struggle, but eventually I heard the sound of fleeing footsteps. After a moment, the person from the ground came into view above me. She leaned over me, asking if I was okay. Before I could answer, though, I felt my body suddenly shutting down on me. In that moment, I didn't understand what was happening, but I could tell she did. She hadn't yet realized I was injured, and her own blood had fallen into my wounds. Next thing I knew, I saw the flash of fangs as she bit down on her wrist, pulling her mouth away before pressing it against my own. I remember the taste of blood coating my tongue as I swallowed what I could. Then I passed out. When I woke up, I was in a room I didn't recognize. My body felt wrong. My mouth was sore. I was cold. And when my ears weren't ringing, I felt like I could hear too many things at once. I knew I wasn't having a meltdown, but I just knew something had happened to me. Eventually, someone opened the door. They said they worked for Face, which was where I was being held. In the span of 30 seconds, I was handed a packet, told I was a vampire, and informed that my maker was waiting in the lobby if I wished to speak with her. They said the Department of Confidentiality Matters would reach out to assess the level of exposure I had caused before ushering me out of the room. My mind was still reeling as they brought me to the lobby. Then I saw her, the person who had leaned over me. She felt different now, in a way that I couldn't put into words, but I could feel it. There were so many things I wanted to say, but all that left my mouth was, "What did you do to me?" She told me her name was Talia. She was a vampire, and she had turned me in an attempt to save my life. I had been in this city not even 12 hours, and in that time, I had managed to get roped into a world I hadn't known existed when I woke up that morning. Face wiped the memory of me from my friend's mind. I don't know what they told my family in order to cover up my turning, but I haven't seen or spoken with them since that night. Talia offered to help me move to Notarum after everything. She felt it was the least she could do since I had died trying to help her. And 9 years later, I'm still here. Every year, Talia made an effort to call me on the anniversary of my turning. I grew to expect it, so when the 19th came and went with no sign of her, I didn't know what to make of her radio silence. I had no way of knowing if she was in trouble or if she was just avoiding me for whatever reason. When she finally called me back tonight, I was relieved to know she was at least alive. As soon as I picked up, I was asking if she was all right and how she had been. But she cut me off to tell me that Elodie is trying to get released soon. Elodie is the vampire who attacked Talia, and then me, the night I was turned. She happens to be Talia's maker, as well as her ex. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison for what she did, which was already a shorter sentence than she deserved. But now, she's trying to file for an early release. Part of why I hadn't heard from Talia was because she had been trying to determine if this was nothing more than a rumor. Now that she has confirmation, she's making plans to leave Notarum. It's only a matter of time before Elodie gets what she wants, so Talia's trying to protect herself. Talia's dynasty can only do so much. When they lost their previous crown, they never formally replaced him. Every 2 years, a member of the dynasty has stepped up to act as a regent. They speak on behalf of the dynasty when Face requests an answer, but that's all they can really do. Face considers crownless dynasties too much of a liability to pour resources into. With the amount of money and influence Elodie has, Talia's dynasty wouldn't stand a chance if something happened. She's not willing to put them at risk like that, and if she leaves soon, she'll be able to put distance between her and Elodie for the time being. She said that even if Elodie still manages to find her, her dynasty will be safe, so it wouldn't matter. But it's not fair. None of this is. Talia shouldn't have to leave in order to feel safe, and Elodie should be held accountable for what she's done. The only reason Face is willing to let things slide is because she's an established vampiric figure, and I don't want to lose Talia either. I know she's my maker, but she's also my friend. She was there for me when I didn't have anyone else. I don't know what I would have done without her, and I can't just stand by and wait for Ellie to go after her again. I have to do something before. Wait, what if I became a crown? Talia mentioned before that the only reason her dynasty hasn't had another crown is because no one nominated themselves as an option. Every dynasty has its own rules, and in this case, the only way they choose a crown is if someone requested the position first. If I were to nominate myself and they accept, I could speak to Face on the dynasty's behalf. And at the very least, I'd be able to get more information on Elodie's case. We wouldn't be blindsided by everything. I know this is sudden, but if I don't do something, Talia's leaving in a week. I'm the only person who knows how bad things got between her and Elodie. And I know she's going away because she thinks it'll protect everyone else from getting hurt. But if I do this, she'll have the support she needs. She won't have to face Elodie alone, and she'll have other people coming to her defense for a change. I know I'm not the most experienced vampire. I haven't even been one for a decade yet, but do you think I can do this, beloved? Do you think I could be a crown? Okay, I'm doing this. I'm gonna try and become a crown. God, I don't even know where to start. I'll have to call Talia and tell her. And I know there's paperwork I'll have to fill out to be officially recognized as a crown, but I'm not sure where to get it from. No, I should try and find it myself. I'll have to get used to handling things on my own soon. I appreciate the offer, though. Um, I know it's late and you have to go to work in the morning, but could you stay tonight? Please, I'm just thinking about a lot right now, and I know I need to start figuring all of this out, but for tonight, I just want tonight to be okay. Thank you, beloved. I'm usually the one telling you to rest. All right, let's go get some rest.